you have to remember the context when it comes to Dan Schneider. In my opinion, Dan Schneider is a creep. Full blown, my opinion, creep. And, this is all in my opinion, but it's also been other people's opinions. And so when you look back at a lot of the footage that came out of Dan Schneider's shows in context to what he was like as a person, then these things are different. It's not just a kid in a bikini. It's a kid in a bikini on Dan Schneider's show. It's a kid in a bikini on Nickelodeon, which also, in my opinion, Nickelodeon has been extremely complicit when it comes to Dan Schneider's problematic, creepy content. Let's go into his many, 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 many tweets on feeds. And not only his tweets on feeds, but his content when it came to feet. I mean, you don't have to look much when it comes to content by Dan Schneider with children feet, in my opinion, inappropriately. You don't. You really don't. And then when it comes to Dan Schneider actually tweeting himself about kids' feet, you really don't have to go that far. It's not really a huge stretch to find the problematic aspects of Dan Schneider with kids' feet. So let's go through them. Number 1, little Ariana Grande from @Victorious smiles at one of her co-stars' feet. But whose foot is it? Whose foot is it? Dan Schneider seems like the only person who seems to be excited about figuring out which kid's foot it is. Which child star from his TV shows, which foot is it? It seems like it's Dan Schneider who's the most excited about figuring it out, which is beyond disturbing. Like, really, just like, what the fuck, dude? Like, who even tweets this? How old is he here? Is like he in his 40s? Pick Carly tickles Sam's very unusual toes. If you have a moment, will you please name Sam's toes for us? Okay, Matt Underwood, if you're watching, which maybe you're not, but you don't see this being weird in any way. Like, Carly tickles Sam's very unusual toes. Like, what's unusual about the toes? And why are you tweeting this? And if you have a moment, will you please name Sam's toes for us? Like, what? I haven't seen any other creator on Nickelodeon saying anything even remotely close to this. The toe, recently adorned with a special toe flower, belongs to the sweet and hilariously talented Miss Jeanette McCurdy. With a smiley face. Here's Victorious. Have you ever tried to eat a foot without ketchup? It's disgusting. Okay. That's awesome. Thanks. I hope you don't have too much sand between your toes now. If so, #take a toe shower. Take a toe shower with a smiley face is just... Why is a grown man tweeting this? And not just once or twice, but like multiple times. Here's another one. Video. Would you like to see Victoria Justice pour ketchup all over her feet? Well, here you go. And it's the website The Slap. No, I honestly personally don't need to see Victoria Justice pour ketchup all over her feet. That's just me. That's just personally me. I don't need to see it. I don't know why you're trying to bait a whole bunch of people to want to be down with seeing it. I don't really find it to be funny. I find it to be really gross, and I find it to be very unnecessary. And here's another important tweet that I came across. Now, someone might like to argue that Dan Schneider, it's not about blanking children, right? But here he is making a tweet to his wife, his actual wife. And it says, do you want to go for a drive? Do you want to go into our room and watch Too Cute? We have 4 on our DVR. I'll rub your feet. And I just find it interesting because here he isn't talking about he's not even talking about children. He's talking about his wife here. And so it really has the clear crossover, right? From children to his wife, who I'm guessing he has blank, blank, blank with, right? And hopefully consensually. But you see the crossover there. So it wasn't just him making tweets about children's feet. He's also here talking about his wife's feet. His wife's feet. And going into their room, which is a very intimate place, etc. And so, you know, for me, that was a very clear crossover where I personally have to draw a line. Now, what else do we? Oh, this one. This one is just wild. Okay, so here's Dan Schneider saying the most absurd tweet thus far. I think this is the creepiest one, in my opinion, when it comes to the toes. He says, toes, similar to fingers, but not nearly as good. Who agrees? Toes, similar to fingers, but not nearly as good. Who agrees? You know what, dude? I've never really thought about it. I've never really thought about it. Can I go full screen for 1 second? I've never really thought about the difference between fingers and toes being better than the other. Obviously, I'm not trying to eat food with my toes. And so, you know, I can have a clear separation between my fingers and my toes. But what the f- are you talking about, man? Can you not see how this tweet can be perceived? How this tweet can be seen? And we're talking about children. And so when Matt Underwood is saying that, you know, it's a huge stretch, Matt, co-star to co-star here, right? I don't think it's a huge stretch. I don't. I think it was all up in our faces, constantly being on a Dan Schneider show. It was all up in every audience member's face that was watching Dan Schneider shows, that there was a very clear difference for sure. Which one is better? What exactly are you talking about, though, too? In what? When it comes to eating or when it comes to rubbing them? Dan Schneider, be a little bit maybe more specific about what you're trying to talk about here, because it's a little too specific and vague at the same time that I have a problem with. Like, it's a little vague, it's a little too specific, and we're also talking about children, which Dan Schneider, in my opinion, has never gave a about. He's honestly never given two fucks about how it's going to look for children, what it's going to do to children, how children are going to feel about it when they get older. Dan Schneider, in my opinion, wasn't really thinking about that. He didn't have our best interests in mind. He was too busy tweeting away about trying to figure out if fingers or toes were better for what, I don't know, and who agrees. That's what he was more concerned about than our well-being. What else do we have here? Oh, I guess this is an actual foot photo of someone. I guess this is Jeanette McCurdy's toes. I mean, dude, this is crazy. This is actually nuts. He's like, I gotta pick. Like, okay, of what? Someone's toe? A child's toe. This toe belongs to one of the stars of one of my shows. I can't. I almost cannot even deal with this, you guys. Thank you so much, Katie, for joining the Chef's Kiss while I'm having a little bit of a nervous breakdown here. What? Why is he so excited about sharing kids' feet? You know, I don't want to show this, but at the same time, I think it's very important to maybe remind someone like Matt Underwood, who is thinking it's a huge stretch to talk about Dan Schneider's, in my opinion, obsession with feet. And, you know, you guys, like, look at this image here. Look at this. And look at this. And what else is there? I mean, there's just look at this. What's going on here? Why so many feet? Just why so many feet? And why is he doing so many things to the feet? It's so weird. And then, you know, God, man. And then we have this Ariana Grande thing is just I don't even want to show it, but it's like so fed up. This is really a problem. And for someone like Matt Underwood allegedly to be emailing fans of the show who are suspicious or maybe have their concerns about Dan Schneider's shows, I mean, Matt Underwood, this is a problem, guys. This is a problem. This shouldn't be happening. Nickelodeon was allowing this type of behavior to happen, and I find it problematic. I do. And do I find it creepy? Yes, I do. I do find it creepy. I do find it problematic. I don't like anything about this. So here's Jeanette McCurdy getting her feet rubbed. And, you know, we saw the tweet from Dan Schneider about him adding his wife, saying he wants to rub her feet at night. And this is what I mean about the crossover, and this is what I mean about context, because this isn't just a person who is isolated in a vacuum, one tweet only, one image only, one scene only of kids' feet, right? This is too many times, over and over and over again. I really hope that Matt Underwood does understand that it's not a huge stretch, and if anything, it's a stretch no longer than a toe. Okay? It's just any kid's body part that's being done over and over again in a way that really starts to seem like it is an alleged fetish. Also, it makes it seem as though it's like almost like to hyper normalize. Like, it feels like Dan Schneider, in my opinion, was trying to hyper normalize his alleged fetish so that children are desensitized to the blank, 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 blank of feet. This is my opinion. Because you have to remember, his audience are children, and he chose to make content for children. That's what he chose to do. And it's so many feet. Him tweeting about all of the kids' feet, sharing pics of the kids' feet to a point where it's like he's desensitizing and brooming his audience of children, honestly, in my opinion, to not bat any lashes, or whatever the saying is when it comes to this.